大家好, I'm Bella from Bella's Simple Chinese School. If you are a beginner, intermediate, advanced, looking for HSK study, business Chinese, or simply want to improve your everyday communication, I'm the teacher for you. Come and join me for a free travel class at Bella's Simple Chinese School.
It's BCMC.
It's like a movie, dog. We living in the last days, man, the last decades. It's like a fucking movie, boy. I swear to God. Yeah. BCMC. Freedom and liberty that's in the Constitution get took away for your safety. Don't forget to get your booster. Say we gotta do it cause the lobby is the lobby. But even if it kills you, you can't even sue nobody. All we see is poverty. They say to blame inflation, but the government is bailing out these banks and corporations. Placing all your cash with a bunch of CBDs that the government gon' snatch and grab and take away so easy. Wars going on outside on you and I. Blue and white, they beat Tyree Nichols until he died. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Have some sex and take some drugs until your brain is cloudy. The wide emotion that some people do for money like a curse. How we want a better world, but we only be making worse. Holding heaters cause it's cold, getting dollars out the dirt. Millions for the politicians and the preachers in the church. Like we dying by design, still falling behind. Designer brands are not behind. Sign your name on the bottom line, like the devil got a spine. But man, we lost our minds. Maybe rather flashing lights in our lives so cheap they blind. We kill ourselves, yeah, we kid ourselves. Long as bitches sucking dick, I guess we feel ourselves. They say the money make the world go, honey make the girls go. My brother's on the slave boat, if you don't know the name. For pounds in the city, like London on the Trizzy, making bleed, making dizzy. Yeah, my buddy's getting busy. For pounds in the city, like London on the Trizzy, making bleed, making dizzy. Yeah, my buddy's getting busy. Don't you worry about it. Hey, don't you worry about it. Have some sex and take some drugs until your brain is cloudy. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Be a slave and go make babies, just forget about it. But don't you worry about it. Hey, don't you worry about it. Pay your taxes, go to church and work your ass around it. No, don't you worry about it. No, don't you worry about it. Take some selfies, watch some TV and don't talk about it. 100 years, barely a tear with shit we bled. But for people in Ukraine, I guess they getting all the bread. When I was young, I thought that there's monsters under my bed. Now I'm grown, I know the only fucking monster is the feds. Ain't no aliens or ghosts, no witches, just some folks who pay the killers with the toast to handle business, do the most. Even journalists are Judas, don't matter if you vote. Either party cause they both lynching niggas with the rope. Back when we created rap to tell the truth and spit the facts. People flooded up the trap to water down and change the stats. We was cooling in the shack, we had pride in being black. Nowadays to get this tax, either you gay or bustin' gas. Talking smack or straight up crap, it's a hella situation. How we promoting greatness when we promise education. Wu-Tang was for the babies, Wu-Tang was for the babies. But fuck it, since I need a Joe, I call this track Mercedes. Bitch for pounds in the city, like London on the Trizzy, making bleed, making dizzy. Yeah, my buddy's getting busy. For pounds in the city, like London on the Trizzy, making bleed, making dizzy. Yeah, my buddy's getting busy. Don't you worry about it. Hey, don't you worry about it. Have some sex and take some drugs until your brain is cloudy. No, don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Be a slave and go make babies, just forget about it. But don't you worry about it. Hey, don't you worry about it. Pay your taxes, go to church and work your ass around it. No, don't you worry about it. No, don't you worry about it. Take some selfies, watch some TV and don't talk about it.
Black China, baby.
So let's move to coming to China. So you were talking earlier about also when you're first coming to China that it didn't really have much of a scene here when you first come here. So tell us about firstly coming to China and what you thought of it and the scene at the time.
Yeah. I think it'd be a I'm not saying it didn't have a scene. The difference is simply that when you're talking about hip hop, real hip hop is political, socially conscious commentary about the lives of oppressed people. That's what hip hop is. So you're not gonna get
do
that
it here.
You know, when we talk to Chinese people about when Chinese people talk about Chinese food in America, they're like, that's not real Chinese.
That's right.
So that's what I say to them about hip hop. It's not real hip hop.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
Yeah.
I hear. The scene here. So who did you know that was here when you first come here?
So I had my friend I came with. Her name was Queen Diamond, and it was a girl that I met when I was at the University of Virginia.
Right.
She and I worked at the college radio station together, and she had done an exchange student program coming to China during her 4 years at UVA.
Right.
So by the time she graduated, she was like, I can go back there and get a job and hang out for a few years. So she convinced me to come too when Nepal didn't work out. And when I got here, so I started going to different music venues, seeing what's popping. And I met the local hip hop community. And there was a band. There's a guy named Byron Hill. Shout out to Byron Hill. He had a group, a large group called the Foundation. And it'd been started with another guy who had left China. And so now he was in charge of it. And when I arrived, they had like maybe 30 people and mostly musicians, like 20 musicians and maybe 9-10 different rappers. But the difference is none of these guys was a real rapper.
Right.
It was guys who just happened to be here in China, and they were like, oh, I can try to rap. And so they got integrated into the band. And so when I arrived, most of these guys were really frustrated with the whole band process because they weren't getting a lot of shows. They weren't getting respect. The articles in That's Shanghai and other online publications that were talking about the local music scene, they're like, okay, this Saturday, go here, go there. The reviews on the Foundation band were not good. They were like, yeah, the musicians are pretty solid, but the rappers all suck. So
why?
Because none of them was a real
They
rapper.
didn't understand. Yeah. Okay.
It's like, okay, when I got here, I started teaching guys how to count bars. And that's one of the basics of emceeing.
Right.
You have to be able to know how to count, know when to stop, know when to bounce, know when to come through ounce for ounce. Like just basic 1, 2, 3, 4. None of them knew how to do that. So I started putting them doing little instructional ciphers. Like, okay, I'll do 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, and teach them how to measure themselves. None of them had any good recorded music. I'm not going to say no recorded music because I don't know that they didn't have, but they didn't have anything good.
Yeah.
Because when it came time to perform, nobody had any songs. So I showed up. I had videos on YouTube. I had songs recorded. I did a show. The first freestyle battle that they ever organized when I got here, I won. Of course, I won the freestyle battle.
Yes.
Killed everybody. And it's like, so.
But I'm assuming there's not much competition at that stage.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, there wasn't a real hip hop scene here on the Chinese side because they can't really talk about the real stuff. Right. And the foreign guys just didn't know how to do it.
So was it more Hong Kong and Taiwan that were more into the hip hop rap scene? Not really.
Well, to an extent, because those places, their discourse is a lot more politicized.
Yes.
So yes, you do have more true hip hop artists in those places than you do in mainland China.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of it. The the Chinese people I talked with, they're not safe if they say certain things.
Yeah.
And it's different than when I was a kid in Cameroon and I was saying stuff about the government. It is what it is. I made it. I know people who died.
Yeah.
So there's a risk to it. But here in China, if you want to take that risk, you better leave the country first. Nobody's trying to make a song saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I guess you just got to, whatever country that you live in or city you live in, you've got to respect the people, people that live here.
So that's definitely my approach. So I came as a hip hop ambassador. I started doing workshops for Chinese people on hip hop, on the origins of hip hop, the difference between old school and new school. I did a lot of these kind of workshops, and when I made Black China Music Company, one of the main reasons I made it was because trying to do that within the foundation of a group that already existed, a lot of those rappers started feeling bitter and angry, like, oh, why is he doing all the shows? I've been here 3 years with this band, and this guy shows up. Now he's the lead rapper for the whole band. And I was like, you know what? I'm trying to get us to a higher level, because once I started training the guys and doing shows with them and writing most of the songs for the foundation, like we would do 2-hour concerts where 80% of the songs were my songs. Right. So I was getting paid when they weren't getting paid for shows, because they were just like extras.
Yeah.
So it created a lot of rivalry and tension and bitterness. And I was like, look, if we succeed as a band, then we all succeed. No matter what your personal role is in it, we could be doing bigger shows. We could be doing music festivals.
Yes.
We could be going international, because now the reviews were great. When That's Shanghai would write about our shows, they'd be like, it was an incredible show.
Yeah.
If you come to Shanghai, you've got to see this band. There were people who were traveling to China and who they would come to our shows, be like, yeah, I was in New York and coming to China. My friend he said, look, I got to come see you guys.
Wow.
Like, people were coming from other countries.
Words getting around.
I was told that if I come to China, to Shanghai, I got to come see this band.
Right.
So I wanted to get us a website, and let's start putting out T-shirts, and let's record music professionally and this and that. And it was hard to organize with 30 people.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, you know what? I'm just going to form a separate entity and do it over there. And so that's how I built Black China Music. And what was significant for me too was the fact that I wanted foreigners and Chinese people together.
Yeah.
Because as it turns out, the hip hop communities, the musical communities, not just hip hop, were very separate out here in Shanghai. You had the Americans here, the rock players here. You had the jazz people over there somewhere. You had the reggae guys over here. And you had the hip hop people over here. And you had the Chinese rock players there. The Chinese.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was separate.
It's so true. Yeah.
And for me, that didn't make sense, because ultimately, as an artist, as someone who grew up within the framework of a cosmopolitan city like New York, the United Nations, I had friends from all over the world my whole life.
Yeah.
I was like, why aren't we coalescing more? And a lot of people were just really resistant to that idea. Like, no, they're like this, we do this. I was like, I don't like that.
Nah.
I don't like that. So I made a company where now most of the people who work with my company are Chinese.
Got it.
And a lot of the artists are Chinese, a lot of the people I work with. And then I also have a lot of Africans, and I also work with a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
And these were all communities that typically stay separate from each other.
Yes.
You know, I was like, no, I want to create an umbrella where everyone's together.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Who are some of the people, I mean, talk about collaborations before, but who are some on your label that are standing out here in China?
Oh, I'd say definitely Queen Diamond, that girl I told you that I met in college. So she wanted to be an artist. Like most people, they want to be an artist, and well, you're
No,
playing
no, no,
that
no,
right.
no, no. I'm just saying, like, is that girl the girl that's on every song that you've written? Black China, baby.
Yeah, that's her. That's
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
That's her.
There you go.
Yeah, and she wanted to be an artist, and
Okay.
at that time, she didn't have the chops. She didn't know how to do it. But growing up as a Black American, you grew up you are a part of hip hop. So I just had to give her some just the same way I was doing with those the other guys in the band. I did the same thing for her. Teach her how to count bars. Teach her how to count 16s for a verse. Teach her about hooks, bridges. Teach her about beats, just many different things. And I developed her as an artist. She became the first artist for Black China Music Company, BCMC. And I stopped recording my own music for the first 3 years I was here, 2-3 years. I didn't record any new music. I was just focusing on her stuff.
Right.
So it took me a couple years to get her to have a small music catalog where she had like 10, 15 songs that she could try. She could start doing her own shows and things like that.
Okay.
And she really, in the underground, she became so popular because she was a wild one. She was down to do almost anything.
Yeah.
And
I love that determination.
yeah,
The drive.
and her drive was strong
Yeah.
to succeed.
Yeah.
And so I was able to push her, and she got really popular. And yeah, she really stands out. In that
That's
regard.
awesome. And I've looked at your catalog of music, and you've collaborated with a lot of people. Who are some of the people that you've really, really enjoyed collaborating with?
A lot of them are actually the beat makers. I have a large group of Chinese beat makers, producers.
Yeah.
I typically refer to them as beat makers because they make the beat, but I produce the songs. But Chinese producers who give me a lot of beats. My brother Boxer Even, that's one of them. Shout out to Boxer Even. I've recently done so many songs with him. My brother A1 in Xinjiang, he actually is not a beat maker, but I've recorded about half a dozen songs with him. It's a lot of people who stand out the most are different Chinese beat makers because they've really blessed me.
And how do you choose someone to collaborate with? Do you have like a standard of, or is it like, oh, cool, let's do something, see how it?
Well, typically I want to hear what you've done before.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you've done before because I respect everyone's artistry and I respect everyone's efforts, but you have to have a certain amount of artistry in you for me to collaborate with you. It has to be something where I feel like, okay, you understand what we are doing. You have to be kind of good at it.
Yeah.
You have to be at least a modicum of good. There's this story like Kendrick Lamar, right? Before he blew up big, he made a song with this underground guy who paid him for a feature. And this guy's kind of like, he's not, but he paid Kendrick Lamar to do this verse feature on his song, which is a conscious song. It's the theme of the song is beautiful.
Yeah.
The execution. So after Kendrick Lamar blew up, and then this guy tried to release a song, they took him to court. They tried to stop him from releasing the song, which was ugly. It's really one of the few black marks on Kendrick Lamar's record. But I can understand why he did that, because the song is whack.
Yeah.
So don't work with whack artists, because later on that lives
come back.
on. It
Yeah.
comes back to bite you. Like, you're on this really crappy song with this really crappy person,
Yeah.
and you'll feel embarrassed. Just don't do it.
Yeah. So you've brought out a new album, and I think it had like 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And it's called Red Money Gang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are the Red Money Gang? it's
it was supposed to be Red Money Boys, but there are girls too. So it was gonna be R&B. I really wanted that, but I got outvoted. So I was like, okay, fine. It'll be Red Money Gang, and these are all the people that are part of BCMC. So the album cover has a list, and that's not even all the people, but it has a list of names of different rappers and beat makers who have collaborated with me on all these projects I've been doing for years.
Yeah.
You know, they say China is the world's factory. This is where you can mass produce anything. I've been mass producing BCMC music here to an extent where, you know, I've got a couple hundred songs that I've done in the last few years.
Yeah.
And these are some of the people who've helped me do that.
Yeah, right. And one of the songs off the new album that just I keep humming all the time in my head, just randomly in the shower, at work, We Are the D-Boys.
Yeah.
I just keep humming that. I just keep saying that in my mind. It's so catchy.
Thanks. I love that song. You know what's crazy is I've wanted to do that song for like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This is a song I've had in the back of my mind for so long. Back when I was in Cameroon and I was putting out these little, this was after I'd done my first mixtape. I was putting out these little joints here and there as always used other people's music. So my first album I made at 16, I didn't use hip hop beats. I used jazz beats.
Interesting.
Yeah, because jazz rap was cool at that time. And there was an album by a jazz musician called Ronnie Jordan. And I loved his grooves on that, and that's what I used for my first album, mostly some of his pieces. And so after that, we just kept in that vein, but we started using more and more just straight hip hop beats. And there's this one song that I always remembered, and I was like, it would sound great to make a rap version of this song.
Yeah, right.
And that's what turned into the D-Boys.
There you go.
Decades later.
Wow. So long.
Yeah.
But I guess I think I'm the same with music as well. You can have all these in your back catalog, and then all of a sudden you record it and go, all of a sudden it's fresh and it's ready to go. So I definitely can relate to that. And another song, Can You Speak Chinese?
Can you speak Chinese? I can speak Chinese. Can you speak Chinese? No, I don't speak Chinese. Can you speak Chinese? Whoa, wait. I can speak Chinese in Shanghai every day. Yeah. So that's kind of like a old school hip hop bounce. I love summer vibe.
And I love that one because just all the things that if you've lived in China as a foreigner, it just ticks off the list of all the things that you go, you have to try, like the Bai Joe. I've never had that until I come here. And, oh my God.
Bai Joe,
it just burns the...
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that song as well. So.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean about making music. That I probably would never need to stop making music because I'm typically talking about things that are larger than just myself. Like I'll always have things to talk about because it's never, ever since my first album, it's never strictly been about myself. Oh, I'm in the club tonight. Oh, I have money, or I don't make those kind of songs. Yeah. My songs tend to be about topics and themes and things that we share in common. Yeah. That's what I like talking about.
Yep. I love that where you can relate it in some way. It could be like a metaphor or something like that, but at the end of the day, it's how you feel about the song and how that makes you move. So, yeah, those are the two ones that I definitely wanted to bring up from the new album. So, what's the plans for the future? What do you got coming up? You got shows coming up? You got a new album? You got new material? Or?
Yeah. So, the new album is called Rap Is My Religion. And it might turn into hip hop is my religion, but the R just sounds good in my ears. You know, it's more than rap. It should be hip hop, but I really like saying rap is my religion. Yes. But really, the meaning is hip hop is my religion, and these are a bunch of songs with Uh-huh.
Is there a single out from that album already?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And it has songs like it's going to have songs like I Am What You Made Me, like God Is My Witness, Jah Show Me the Way. And the thing is, despite all these titles, the songs are very, very gangster.
Oh.
Very, very anti-establishment.
Has that naturally come, or is it you wanted to focus on it?
No, naturally.
Yeah.
I've always had a very contentious relationship with organized religion. Having grown up with very religious parents, growing up in the church, I went to catechism when I was a kid.
Right.
Because I went to this French school, which France is a Catholic country, so part of the school curriculum included catechism.
Right.
I just always grew up with a lot of strong opinions about how religion is used to subjugate the masses, how it was used historically. And so I've always had these topics, and they've always expressed themselves in different things I say, but this time I decided to put them together on one album.
Yeah.
And the song titles all mention God, the album artworks have religious themes, and the subject of the song is about this tension between a benevolent God and a suffering people, and what lies in between those two.
That's interesting. Let's get to some cliche questions. Skinny, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think one of them would be hang your hat where you can reach it. Hang your hat where you can reach it.
Here's one. If you could go back in time and talk to a young Skinny O.G. In New York when you were 15, 16, what would you say to him?
Wow. I would tell him where the money's at. I would, like every time I've lost money, I'd be like, okay, you see on this date, in this year, don't go out with this girl.
Yes.
Like, don't go. I would,
She's bad news.
Yeah, it would basically be some advice on like exactly who wins the Super Bowl in 2020. Bet all your money on the
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it'd be that type of stuff.
Yeah. Social medias, Skinny. Where can we find you?
There's only 2 Skinny OGs in the whole world. There's me and this Spanish guy. So if you go on any music platform and you type in Skinny OG, there's only one of 2 people who can pop up. Me and this Spanish guy. I think he's Mexican. Don't quote me. Don't get mad at me, Skinny OG, if you're not Mexican. But those are the only 2 I've ever seen anywhere. Okay. So on any social music platform, you can find me on Audiomack, Deezer, Apple, Spotify, all the good places.
Awesome. All right. Now to finish off, it's just to get to know you a bit more. Your top 2 or 3 favorite things as of today. What are your 2 or 3 all-time favorite artists?
Ooh, Kendrick Lamar, Tupac, and Bob Marley.
That's a pretty good crew there, right there.
Yeah, those are the 3 at the top of any of my lists. They're always at the top of my lists.
And in China?
In China, there's a guy who's actually banned out here. I think his name is Namwi, and I believe he's Singaporean Chinese.
And your top 2 or 3 favorite albums of all time?
That would probably be, it'd have to be Kendrick Lamar's discography, Tupac, especially his unreleased work. Like his largest album, like All Eyes on Me, that's not my favorite Tupac album by any stretch. The stuff that came out after he died, his posthumous stuff, and his earlier albums, when he was just
they're the gold.
Pure hardcore, conscious music without any pop veneer on it, because All Eyes on Me was kind of a pop album.
Big commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah.
And of course Bob Marley, rest in peace to the greatest.
Got it. And what was the first album that you bought with your own money?
Oh, okay. I think I'd probably have to say it was Mobb Deep, the Infamous.
Mm.
The Infamous album. I had a friend I stopped being friends with over that album. Because it was a crazy story. There was a girl I was dating, and we were in Cameroon, and I was best friend with this Brazilian guy. And we had told her like albums we wanted her to send us from the States, and she only sent one copy of the Infamous, and we ended up fighting over it. And I was like, well, she's my girlfriend, so guess who's getting the album, fucker? Like I just took all this. I was like, no, this is mine.
Buy it.
Yeah.
And what was the last album that you bought or streamed or downloaded?
I tried to listen to Playboi Carti's album. And I say try because I'm sorry, I gotta keep it real. It's like what has happened to rap. Like I said, when we started it, we never really expected it to blow up as much as it did, and the devolution of the whole genre of the lyrical prowess that we used to value so much is really sad.
It's been washed away a little bit, do you think?
It has, because there was a time when every rapper had to be really original, and that pushed people to put their best foot forward at all times and find talent. Like if you weren't talented, you just nobody would pay attention to you. And there were gatekeepers in the music game to where, and I don't mean just like industry gatekeepers, I mean like the people in the neighborhood. If you came outside the house and you had whack stuff to say, everyone would tell you you're whack and nobody wants to listen to you.
Right.
Nowadays, you can make music by yourself.
Yeah.
You can be in your bedroom recording stuff and put it out there on the platforms,
but that doesn't make you talented.
Doesn't make you talented. That's right. But what happens with that is there's a market for bad music. There was a time when new music would come out maybe once a week. There might be 100 new songs every month or something.
Yeah.
Let's say in the really early days of the music industry, right? I'm just spitballing here. But these days it's like 10,000 new songs a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to fill this huge marketplace of slots where people just want to slide material in, you've got a lot of crappy stuff that you put out, a lot of schlock.
And that's what it's happening in not only the Australian music, but the world. People like all record labels are now on TikTok, on Instagram, waiting for that one to go viral and then be the first person to hand them like a huge contract. So,
right. And what happened with that is there was always a thing in music where if something's popular, other record labels will be like, okay, let's find someone who sounds like that too.
Yeah.
But now it's reached a point, like we said, there's so much space for just anyone to pop up. The bad part about that is if you pop up sounding like someone else, you'll get that opportunity because the music industry is always looking for someone who sounds like the last hitting thing. So Lil Wayne, for example, one of my favorite rappers of all time, he created a wave, a genre, a style that was his own that ended up getting emulated by a whole generation of future rappers, including Future, including Young Thug, including many people. And then other people started imitating Future and Young Thug.
Got it.
So they're imitating Wayne. They're not as good as Wayne.
Yeah.
He's a lyrical beast. But they just come kind of sounding like him. And they have some good songs. Okay. Now other people are imitating them. So now you're imitating someone who's not lyrical, who has a mumbly style that's not really like, okay, whatever. But you're imitating an imitator. So that's what, in my opinion, that's what Playboi Carti is.
And the other thing,
terrible.
And the other thing too, I should have brought up earlier, is your live performance, Skinny. You seem like a person that prides yourself on performing live, and if you're going to make it in the industry, you have to perform live.
Right.
So in modern days, you don't have to do that because of downloading and streaming, and like you said, being able to just put something online. But at the end of the day, if you can't perform live, then you may as well give up now. But performing live, how important is that to you?
That's so important.
Yeah.
That's how I started. Like I said, before me and my friends ever started recording music, we were just live performers. I started out as a break dancer.
Yeah.
It was always about putting on a show and making a good show. And later we included rapping or putting our own songs into the show. But in the beginning, it was dancing. It was making people happy with a good show.
Yeah.
So now if you have people who don't know how to perform, who don't know how to put on a good show, and their music is kind of like, it's like, I tried to listen to his album, I couldn't. And like you said, with the performance thing, it's such a huge part of what hip hop has always been.
Yes.
Because before there were any recordings, hip hop was only about live events. That's all it was. It was, you had to be there to see it. There are no recordings of most of the early days.
And that's how those bands got to where they were, by performing live and getting the crowds coming back and word of mouth. Last question, Skinny. Who is your greatest inspiration or hero, and why?
My parents. My parents. Like, there's a lot of great people in history. I mean, so I can't even start going down the list. We know who the great people of history are. But in my life, I've seen my own parents always take a stand to do the right thing. There's this story I told just a few times before. I'll tell you this story. So when I was a kid living in New York, there's something which is common in many poor countries of the world, and even in first world countries, which is indentured servitude. So people who travel, wealthy people in third world countries, can go to their home village and buy people servants. What happens is you go to the village and say, okay, well, I'm rich and I'm going to America. I need some servants. And people will be like, oh, take my child. And you say, okay, I'll take care of him. I'll pay for the school, and here's some money. And you take their children. This is the realities of the world. Mm-hmm. There was a guy, a young guy, and I was maybe like, let's say 8 years old or something. I don't know, but let's say something like that. And so he was maybe like 16. So to me, he was like a big guy. He was big. He ran to our apartment one day and got on his knees in front of my parents, begging them to save him. And what had happened was he was being abused by the people who had brought him to America, beaten and mistreated and all types of horrible things, because that's what happens with indentured servitude. It's akin to slavery, and it's still practiced in many countries. We won't go into too many details. I'm talking about UAE and Saudis. We won't go into too many details about these countries like Libya or whatever who still think it's cool. But my parents hid him in our house, and this was a big no-no in the international community, diplomatic community. Like, you don't interfere in someone else's household, but they hid him in our house while these people were going around looking for their servant, and they secretly managed to get him new paperwork and to pay for his ticket so he could secretly go back to his family. So for me, it's like they did some Harriet Tubman shit. Like, they set this guy free, and they did that at personal risk to themselves of being ostracized by the rest of the diplomatic community. Like, you're not here to free our servants. But they did that because it was the right thing to do. And that's just one story. my parents have always done things like that.
Yeah.
And they taught me by example is you do not sit idly by when you see something wrong happening.
Exactly.
You take action. You do something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Incredible.
That inspired me.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And like parents sounds like a cliche, but when you say something like that, it really hits the heart. So, Skinny, thank you very much for your time.
Hey.
What I like about you is you shoot from the hip. You tell it as it is, and I really, really like that. I've seen you perform here, and like you've said all through the podcast, you're helping, you're doing yourself, creating new music, making people happy, but you're also helping other musicians, rap artists, hip-hop artists here in China. I love that. Keep doing that. I hope you come down to Australia in the future.
Yes.
And let me know when the new album comes out and when you do a tour.
Definitely.
And we'll promote it on here.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, bro.
Not a worries.
Thanks, bro. All right.
Easy.
That was the best interview I have done yet.
Really?
Hi, I'm Tony Fair, founder of Victorian Grooming Company. Is your beard feeling dry or the skin underneath itchy? Maybe you'd rather soften and tame your beard instead. Our classic collection of beard oils, balms, and soaps will leave your beard looking, feeling, and smelling amazing. And if you prefer shaving, our pre-shave oils and shave soaps will give you a smooth and razor burn-free shave. Handmade in Edmonton with natural ingredients. Visit VictorianGrooming.com.